So how do you have this first tier sorted out?
Yeah, for me, it's CeeDee Lamb, then it's Justin Jefferson, then it's Jamar Chase, and then it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think a lot of people might be confused seeing Amon-Ra up in this list. But listen, man, if you're still worried about draft capital after a man got $140 million contract or whatever it is, like I think that second contract throws concerns about draft capital out the window. Amon-Ra, he's here to stay. In redraft, like just for the 2024 season, I have Amon-Ra ahead of Justin Jefferson because we know he and Jared Goff can get it done. Like they've got a great connection with one another. So that's it for me. It's CeeDee Lamb, then Justin Jefferson, then Jamar Chase, then Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's my top four.
That's exactly how I have it, and I have that for the 2024 season as well. You know what? I actually lied. I do have Marvin Harrison Jr. in there, and that's the one where I may have jumped the shark. But we'll see. Who do you got in tier 4?
Tier 4 for me. This is kind of a weird one. There's not a lot of rhyme or reason to it. Marvin Harrison is my wide receiver 5. Great prospect, 21 years old, great situation with a quarterback who has a history of supporting fantasy wide receiver ones. Stars are aligning for Marvin Harrison, and he could easily jump into tier 1 after this year. After that, I got Puka Nacua, and I know some people might be higher or lower on Puka Nacua. He's just a polarizing guy, man. Like, you look at what he did year 1, you look at him doing it without Cooper Kupp, you look at the draft capital. What you see on film is exciting, but there are some concerns about his overall analytical profile. I think he's a very polarizing guy, but after what he did his rookie season, it's hard to push him outside of tier 2. And then the last guy running out tier 2 for me is A.J. Brown.
No. All right. A.J. Brown. He's really up there in points per game and has been consistent with that.
But he's 27, which is scary.
Yeah, that's the only thing I was wondering, because I have Garrett Wilson in this tier. And the problem is what I was saying about the quarterback situation with the guys above. Like, I just don't know how long Aaron Rodgers will be in there, but we know A.J. Brown's locked in with the Jalen Hurts, who's only 25 years old. So right. I feel like he's ending his career as an Eagle. And maybe that's a good jumping pad into tier 3. Who do you have in tier 3?
Garrett Wilson, Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze in that order. Garrett Wilson, man, he's so good. Like, I know it. But he's been a wide receiver 2 and a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. And I get it. Like, we can contextualize that. He had Zach Wilson and he had Joe Flacco, and he got 2 snaps with Aaron Rodgers. Like, yeah, he hasn't really had a fair chance. I get it. But, he's going into year 3 now, and we haven't seen anything close to a top 10 finish. So I know the underlying peripheral metrics are there. I know he's a good football player, pops on film, has all of the numbers that we want to see. But I just can't move him up higher until I actually see him producing like an elite wide receiver.
And I love first of all, I fully agree with that. It's just unfortunate. I would love for the Jets to get a good quarterback after Rodgers leaves. There's no certainty. Maybe he has this good 2024 and then goes right back to doing the 13 points a game or whatever that might be. Yeah. And you had Odunze and Neighbors, right? These next 2 rookies.
Yeah, and I actually I have Neighbors slightly ahead of Odunze, but man, they're so close. It doesn't even matter. Like, those guys are a coin flip for me. It's tough to compare the two because, Neighbors is going to have more volume to start his career. He's got more big play upside, but I think that Odunze is a more polished receiver, but he's also got an uphill battle to finding a meaningful target share early in his career. So both amazing prospects with little nitpicks in their profiles, but both, pretty confidently taking those guys in Dynasty.
Yeah, it's again back to just how much do you weigh 2024 versus the rest of their career. Right. We know Odunze is going to be locked in with Caleb Williams, but that's definitely not a homer pick. I mean, a top 10 wide receiver has had so much success in the past that you just can't ignore that.
Yeah, and I'm honestly, I don't want to say I'm like fading him, but I haven't drafted a ton of Odunze in 2024 drafts just because of rookie quarterback, Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. It's going to be tough for him. But I think long-term, there's a lot of safety in a guy like Rome Odunze. And I'm hoping after this year, like I expect him to have a down and quiet rookie season because of all of these external factors. And if there's any discount on Rome Odunze after this season, better believe I'm buying it next year.
And just since it's your team, I'll stick to it on a little bit more. The offensive play calling, how do you feel about that? Or are you needing another change before you really buy into this Bears offense?
I want to see what this new offense looks like with Shane Waldron. It'll be a little bit different than what we saw with Getsy, where it was very schemed up for the opponents. It felt like it was a different offense every single week. I'd rather Shane Waldron just roll out an offense that he's a little bit more confident in, that we can kind of get an idea of what it'll look like on a week in, week out basis.
All right. I'm excited for this team. Caleb has a low bar to just be the best Bears quarterback ever.
He can do it his rookie season.
4,000 yards. Come on.
His rookie, 4,000 yards and 29 touchdowns, and you're the best quarterback ever. It's a very, very low bar. This next tier for me, man, these are some of my favorite targets because I think that you can get them for relatively cheap. They've still got room to grow. They're young, all that. So this tier for me, Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, Drake London, and Nico Collins. I'm going to read that back to you a little bit. So Brandon Ayuk's the first guy. I actually had two of them flip-flop. So Brandon Ayuk's my top guy here, then Jalen Waddle, then Chris Olave, then Nico Collins, and then Drake London.
All right.
And this is just a nice little blend of youth. You know, Brandon Ayuk's the old guy in this tier, but he's still only 26 years old. You go all the way down to a guy like Drake London, who's just 23. All of these guys have room to improve and get better, and they've all shown us that they, you know, like, this is kind of like my arbitrage Garrett Wilson. Like, these guys are cheaper than Garrett Wilson, and they have similar floors and ceilings over the long term. So this tier right here, these are the guys that I'm kind of aggressively trying to get wherever I can. We're missing Drake London.
Drake London,
end of
gotcha.
that tier.
Thanks.
And Drake London, I think a lot of people have just anointed him as like he's going to be a wide receiver 1 this year. I'm a little nervous about it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, Olave 14 points per game last year, significantly higher than Drake London, but we're expecting a big jump. Historically, Kirk Cousins has had top 10 receivers left and right, even has been able to support 2 top 10 receivers. So we'll see. And just to double check, Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins, Chris Olave, Drake London. What's the order you got here? Is this right?
I've got Ayuk, Waddle, Olave, Collins, London, but I can move Collins ahead of Olave. I've got those guys are really, really tight for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm all in on this CJ Stroud, anyone around him.
Yeah, let's do Collins ahead of Olave. I'm confident with that now that he got his
Yeah.
extension.
Awesome. All right, tier 5.
One man in this tier, Tyreek Hill.
Okay. There we go. I was waiting for that. You did that with the Chan
top
too, man.
3 guy, but like, what are we still getting from him? Like, is he going to retire after this year? Are we getting one more year? Like, he's the type of guy. What happens with Tyreek Hill? Like, I don't want to wish this on anybody, but look what happened to Cooper Kupp last year. Like, back-to-back seasons as the overall wide receiver 1. 1 year where he's got a bad hamstring and he's injured, and now all of a sudden the Dynasty community has written him off for dead. And I think that's my fear with Tyreek Hill. Is the same thing could happen with him. Tyreek Hill comes out week 1, tweaks his ankle, doesn't have a season where he's 100%. He goes for 900 yards and a few touchdowns. Going into next year, nobody wants Tyreek Hill. So that's the fear with Tyreek Hill, is the floor can just fall out from underneath his value at any second. Yeah,
from a Dynasty perspective, his price is still very high to acquire, and it would just hurt you to trade for him if anything went wrong. Essentially, you have to pray for just give me 2024, and I don't care what happens after that. That's how you would have to approach it, pretty much.
Yeah, so he's one of those guys that, like, if he's on my roster, I'm okay just riding him until the wheels fall off. And I'm kind of doing the same thing with a lot of these aging veterans like Derrick Henry. Like, I've got no interest in trading Derrick Henry away because, like, a 2nd or 3rd round pick isn't going to be as useful to me as Derrick Henry will. I'll just keep Derrick Henry on my roster and keep plugging him in until I can't anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So tier 6 is probably where we'll see some sort of drop off in points per game. But who do you got in here?
DJ Moore atop this tier, 27 years old, not a young spring chicken anymore by any means, but still has some good years ahead of him. After that, Michael Pittman, then Devontae Smith, and then DK Metcalf. So this is all these guys are pretty close in age, 25, 26, 27 years old, and they're all guys that have, given us flashes of wide receiver 1 potential, but, these are more or less wide receiver 2s in fantasy.
Yeah. Just locked in starter roles for all of these guys. Smith, I stopped disrespecting or undervaluing him a long time ago. He's just good. He's good. He's great. I like him. He's awesome. Don't hate on him.
Actually, I had him a tier below, but I think I'll put T. Higgins in this tier as well.
Okay.
T. Higgins still just 25 years old. I know he's coming off a down year. I think the thing I like about T. Higgins is that if you get him this year, he's almost assured to bump in value next year. Like, look what happened to Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson, 28 years old, went to what was the worst offense in the NFL last year and still saw a bump in value. And that's going to happen with T. Higgins. Wherever he goes, people are going to sing a song about how it's better for his situation. So you can get T. Higgins for cheap now, knowing that regardless of what happens this season, he's almost insured to increase his value going into next year.
Yeah, and guys, you might not even have to draft him here either. Just with where he's going in draft. So yeah, good call out there. And then let's see. Yeah, tier 7. How are you feeling here?
Zay Flowers atop this tier. 1st round draft capital, looked good as a rookie. Checked all the boxes that I want to see. Jordan Addison right behind him for pretty much all the same reasons. Another round 1 rookie that went for 900 plus yards. You like seeing that. And then I've actually got, I know we said we're going 24 deep, but I've got a few extra guys in this tier. So
yeah, go
the rest
for
of the
it.
guys in this tier: Rashee Rice, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Tank Dell, and Brian Thomas Jr. I know you got a lot of faces to sift through here, so I can read them back.
Yeah, you
for
see
you
me scanning the room for all these guys.
So after Rashee Rice, it's JSN, Tank Dell, and then Brian Thomas.
Okay. I can
And
find
JSN,
it.
man, like
I've already forgotten what JSN looked like. That's how his year went. No,
let me see if I
I
can
got
see
him.
him
I
out
got
there
him. I
somewhere.
got him.
There
I
you
got
go.
him.
Yeah. And
So
then
okay, Zay
after
Flowers, Addison,
Tank,
Rashi Rice,
and then
JSN,
Brian Thomas
Tanko.
Jr. is the last guy here.
All right. Yeah, I like Brian Thomas Jr. A lot of upside. Another first round guy. People are worried about the route running, similar to a DK Metcalf type of a situation, sort of. But they don't have a lot of other options there. They're going to need to grow with him. I still think it'll be him and Kirk Cousins, Evan Ingram leading the way in the next couple seasons. And big questions I have. We got to. It's not about the two guys that are going to be suspended because that's just a this year type of a situation. We know these guys can produce and are going to be top 2 targets, and Addison and Rice. But JSN, are you expecting Lockett to, just either this year or next year just to be out of the picture, and then JSN gets that role? We saw amazing touchdown grab from JSN at the end of the season to help, I believe, game winner for them.
Yeah.
So there's some promise.
So, I mean, I don't think that we're just going to see Tyler Lockett disappear. I don't think that's going to happen at all. But his yards per game have trended down for 3 straight seasons. His yards per game last year were the lowest we've seen since 2017. So the age is clearly getting to him. And I think he's still a good football player. Like, he can move the chains. He can get open immediately off the line. I don't think he's just going to disappear. But I think he's kind of already on that slow, steady march downward that we see from older wide receivers. And I think that JSN can carve out a much bigger role. I think a lot of people look at JSN's rookie season as just an overall disappointment. And sure, it was, but like, it's not like he was terrible. And he also got injured in the preseason and missed all of training camp. Like, how important training camp is for a rookie wide receiver, and he missed that. So he was fighting an uphill battle all season. I'm still just a believer in the talent. The guy that I saw at Ohio State, I think he's got the skill set to be one of the best receivers in the league, and I just don't think that we can really put too much weight in what we saw last year.